Welcome to Variant Edition, your source of comic book news and culture. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Lewis.
And we've got another review-filled episode this week. We had a lot of reviews that we shot for our last episode, more than would fit. So
we decided to share with you guys this time because there's a lot of good books out there that you guys need to be reading. You have to be reading, or else we won't like you.
Exactly. So without further ado, let's get to the reviews.
Here you go.
So it may sound like I've jumped on a bandwagon, but it was a bandwagon I got on a long time ago. Brian K. Vaughan is a very good writer. Okay, that's sort of a given at this point. He has started 2 new series in the recent past. One is Saga, which is amazing. I don't think we've talked about it on the show yet, but we will. The other one is something that's a little more experimental called Private Eye. Now, Brian K. Vaughan sort of does 3 things very well. He's very good at painting a world that is very rich, very interesting, sort of unique, but with a lot of possibilities to tell a lot of stories. Think about Y: The Last Man. On the surface, it's about a world with no guys, but he told more than just gender stories, okay? Ex Machina, same thing. Saga, it's not just about parents. I mean, there's so many themes going on there. This is very similar in Private Eye. The other thing he's really good at is popping those stories in so they don't sound too bang you over the head with, here, I'm going to teach you something, or I'm going to show you something in the scope of something larger. And the third thing is he's very good at sort of painting this speculative fiction. And it's very obvious in this case. So Private Eye takes place in the future after a devastating event where basically everything that was private on the internet is no longer private. Everybody's password, everybody's journal, everybody's everything is open to the world and exposed. Basically, almost collapses the entire world. As a result, things change and people start taking on personas when they're out in public, so that people are very, very protective of their personal identities. So whereas now we've got Facebook with everybody sharing every time they go to the damn bathroom, in this future, people wear masks when they go out on the street so that nobody knows who they are. And almost picking up something that one of the Google guys said, when you're a kid, you're not allowed to wear a mask because you should be able to experiment with your identity until you hit an adult. And then you can start wearing a mask and being who you want to be. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Basically, it's a mystery story, a detective story, a noir detective story about a private eye who in this new world is now called a paparazzi because the press is the equivalent of the police. And the press is run by the government because they're the official source of information. It's something I don't want to give too much away and describe too much because it's such a rich world that is presented that you learn so much from issue to issue about the world that sort of just keeps building and building and building the story and making it even stronger. The art by Marcos Martin is amazing and it's grown on me every single issue. The other sort of unique thing about this and unique thing about Brian K. Vaughan is he's not afraid to take chances. This is a big chance. This book is only available digitally through panelsyndicate.com, and it's not available in print. And so I think it actually might be difficult for them to put into print because they're presenting it in a landscape format, not in a portrait format that most comics are in. And it really works for the series because it's designed to be that way. So, this is one of those reviews that's kind of hard to do because I can sort of praise the themes. It's all about privacy and what is privacy worth. And, obviously we swung too far in one direction and now this new world is swinging in the other direction. And at the heart of it, there's just a really good noir mystery with really strong, well-developed characters. I don't want to give more of the plot away because that's the fun about reading this book is every page, another peel of the onion comes off and you get to see more and more. Go online, pick this up. You pay what you want for this book. The first collected edition of the first 5 issues just came out, so it's a really good chance to grab that, hop on. It's something that if, a lot of people are Brian K. Vaughan fans, this is something that if you haven't heard of before, go pick it up. So Matteo Scalera is a name that you've heard before if you've been watching the show. He's currently the artist on Black Science with Rick Remender, and he's also doing a bunch of covers for Skybound, and it's very obvious why. He is a talent to watch. His other book that he's doing now, I mean, this is a guy who's doing basically 2 monthlies at the same time, and they're both amazing. His other book that he's doing right now is Dead Body Road. 4 issues have come out so far, and it's... The cool thing about this guy is he's got no problem doing any genre. He did some books for Marvel for a while, so he's got the superhero stuff down, changed up his style a little bit, and he's now doing, the science fiction with Black Science. And then Dead Body Road is a heist/revenge movie on paper, okay? And again, he's, tweaked his style a little bit, and it works perfectly. Basically, the premise is there's a bank job that goes down, doesn't go down correctly. Somebody's killed. It's actually the wife of a police officer. The police officer decides to go rogue and take down these guys that perpetrated the heist. And I don't want to give too much of it away because it's actually kind of a good story so far. And with all the twists and stuff, it's actually kind of fun to, follow along. But it's revenge. It's dirty. It's bloody. It's rough. Take no prisoners, particularly with the 4th issue. Wow. One of the big things with this issue is they do a car chase on paper. Now, you see car chases in the movies a lot, but you don't see a whole lot of car chases in the comics because, it's kind of hard to have that action and the suspense and everything that you can put on a movie or television. On paper, it's kind of a little harder to do well. People do it, but not everybody does it well. This issue, yes, Matteo Scalera is amazing, and the amount of motion, I've said before his art has a very kinetic style. He's perfectly suited for action like this. It had me having the same visceral reactions that I've seen on like good chase movies, like, the Bourne movies and, movies. It's just... I had the same feelings. So mission accomplished. Justin Jordan is the author here, and he's crafted a pretty nice story with a lot of twists. He's definitely a fan of the genre, and it's a rough book, but it's a fun ride, and I can't wait to see where it eventually ends up. And I know the twists, it's not going to end well, but I want to see where it's going.
And now, the book that has had more relaunches than the entire DCU has had in the last 2 years, the all-new, not-so-different Marvel Now relaunch of the Fantastic Four, written by veteran DC scribe James Robinson and drawn by Leonard Kirk with Carl Kessel. Now, I've been a fan of the Fantastic Four for a long time. Just the idea of a family having superpowers and trying to lead a relatively normal life while trying to save the world on a weekly basis and trying to maintain a personal life at the same time has always interested me concept-wise. That and all 4 of the personalities could not be any more different. Now, if you haven't kept up with the FF in the last few years, a lot of stuff has happened, like, spoiler alert, Ben Grimm dying, he went to heaven, met God / Jack Kirby, then coming back to life, Johnny dying and coming back to life, of course. Reed Richards actually being part of the somewhat devious Illuminati alongside Doctor Strange and Iron Man. Sue leaving the team at one point during the Civil War event to join Captain America's Secret Avengers, the team traveling across the galaxy into even different universes during Mark Millar's tenure. Even at one point, Spider-Man was on the team, and even their kids went on and had their own adventures in their own book, properly titled Just FF. I will say this, with the relaunch, the art is very strong, and as big, as in, very good flow between the panels, and the dialogue keeps the pace steady. For those of you familiar with the Fantastic Four, even if you're new, you're already taken for a bit of a wild ride with a few slow moments in between, which basically serve as a good build-up for the mayhem that just ensues in the following panels. The book starts with a random attack from Fin Fang Foom, the giant green dragon. He's attacking the city. Right before the city is taken down, the Fantastic Four come in, take him down, clean up, do whatever. We also see some great character development from Ben and Johnny as 2 people trying to find their place in the world. One of them is a rising superstar entertainer, and the other is just a giant lovesick puppy who only wants one thing or one person in this whole world. Even Susan and Reed have some adjusting to do as they see their kids growing up right before their eyes and becoming adventurers in their own right. As a parent myself, I can appreciate the more grounded approach to this book, and the core theme being about family and support. Now, a new threat looms from a universe we all thought was long gone and dead, and begins to make life for the FF very difficult as usual. Now, for those of you familiar with the whole Heroes Reborn and Onslaught event that happened a long time ago, you might have an inkling as to where this book and the story may be going. So I'm intrigued nonetheless to continue reading this title, and seeing what may come of this plot that seems to have a lot of potential. Oh, and one of the team members suffers a drastic event in the second issue, which, knowing Marvel, may not last very long, or it actually could become a permanent problem for the FF. You just have to see and wait.
So you could say it was a trend that sort of started with Hawkeye, was it last year or 2 years ago? But it's one that Marvel is definitely trying to continue. We've got Silver Surfer #1, definitely a very unique take on the character, but I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the all-new Ghost Rider. This is a book that will cause, if it hasn't caused already, a little bit it has, a bit of controversy, okay? Ghost Rider, if we go back, way back, we got a skull-faced guy on a horse, taking revenge. Then it goes to the motorcycle. Then it goes to the newer motorcycle. Even when they did the Ghost Rider 2099, it was still this motorcycle guy. And it sort of made sense, badass motorcycle, flames. I mean, it's just a great, great image. It just kind of wrote itself pretty much. And I think that's the problem. How many stories can you tell about a guy on a motorcycle? Great, you can, get a new character. They've done that. But at the end of the day, you sort of run out of stories that you can tell. And that's definitely the approach that they've taken here. Philippe Smith was tasked with, hey, let's make Ghost Rider a guy that rides a kick-ass muscle car. And actually pulls it off. Now, going along with this new take is definitely a unique style. And I think this is another aspect of the book that has a little bit of a controversy to it. Everybody always complains, everything looks the same, nothing's different. Then something comes out that looks different, and everybody complains, oh, it's too different, I don't like it. This is definitely a case where I think some people aren't going to like it because the art is definitely a very unique style, but it's a style that I like a lot. And the more that I've seen Tradd Moore's art, the more I like it. First came to notice him during the Luther Strode issues. There's 2 series of that so far, one more that they're going to finish up. Amazing artist, grew every issue. Here, wow, amazing stuff. But to the premise of the book, Robbie Reyes, continuing the long Marvel tradition of alliterative names, is a mechanic, has a handicapped brother, he's a good guy, okay? Kind of short on cash, decides to do some street racing, except he uses the wrong car, and as a result gets gunned down. And as a result, gets burned up. And then, like a phoenix from the ashes, a little more demonic than that, something happens. And, that's kind of the gist of the story. First issues, you can kind of give a little bit of away because that's the whole premise of the whole series. Gotta admit, kind of liked it. Went back, read it again, liked it a lot more. If anything, this series has a ton of potential. They didn't play any of the LA poor poverty thing too much. It was well within check. Nothing sounds too cliche. It was very cool. And like I said, the art, especially during the racing scenes, wow. This is a book to look for. It could go either way, but I think it actually has the promise to pull it off because they want to tell new stories, and I think they actually have a nice vehicle, no pun intended, to do so.
Now, I'm taking a little bit of a leap of faith from my usual comfort zone of men and women in tights and galaxy questing, time traveling, and robots obsessed with ruling the planet and getting back at their creator for not loving them enough, to something a little different. I picked up Dark Horse's adaptation of the newly relaunched and revisioned Tomb Raider book based off the video game that came out about 2-3 years ago or so on Xbox 360. Now, if you haven't played the game, this book picks up directly after the events of what happened, but again, don't fret over not having spent precious hours of your life on video games, and more importantly, money you should be spending on comic books because some of what happened gets covered in the book anyway. Now, fans of the franchise get a different, more stripped down version, and not stripped down like visually, perverts. Stripped down version emotionally of Lara Croft. We're all used to seeing her as a badass and strong girl and, kicking butt, but we're seeing more of a stripped down version, more emotionally not in tune with herself, and she's trying to pick up her life after the events of what happened in the video game. She's being haunted by nightmares of her ill-fated adventure, and a call from a friend turns into a wild and mysterious adventure filled with ancient spirits, giant tidal waves, and of course a creepy tour guide. With Gail Simone, who's known for her righteous girl power writing skills and giving major and minor superheroines a strong presence in comics, you can't go wrong. And Nicholas Daniel Selma keeping things nice and simple with clean art that's actually very reminiscent of Pierre Guerra, who drew the amazing Y the Last Man by, you guessed it, Matthew Vaughn. Big fans of him. Some years ago on this book, it looks like will serve some interesting insight into the mind of one of the world's greatest adventurers and possibly lead into another video game if we are lucky in the near future.
So I'm just going to come right out and say it. Real Heroes sort of looks very familiar, okay? It should be no surprise, though, because it's Bryan Hitch. So I guess a little bit of backstory here. Bryan Hitch has always been a pretty big name in comics, but really exploded onto the scene with Mark Millar for the Ultimates, okay? And sort of redefined this whole widescreen heroes. They sort of had done it before in the Authority and things like that, but the Ultimates was really where, you know, they kind of hit the ground running. And, I mean, go to the movies, you know, you'll see the results. Anyway, he's sort of branching out onto his own. You know, this isn't his first series, but this is his first series as a writer. And Real Heroes kind of has an interesting premise and sort of goes along with the whole thing. Well, bear with me and it'll make sense. Book opens, big giant action scene. New York is being attacked by these, like, you know, mechanical monster things or whatever. And, you know, Captain America, I mean, well, it's not Captain America, but, you know, and the Wasp, no, it's not the Wasp. Anyway, like I was saying, everything looks very familiar. And that really could come down to being Bryan Hitch. And he sort of has a very definitive style. So no matter what book he's drawing, his character is going to look kind of similar. And considering he sort of redefined the look of the Avengers for the Ultimates, it's not so surprising. And given where the book actually ends, it sort of makes sense too. So like I said, you have to bear with me on this review a little bit. You'll see from the art, it's very obvious that this stuff looks very familiar. But at first I didn't like that. But then when I got to the twist of the book, I actually appreciated it a lot more. Basically, you're halfway through the book before you realize we're actually watching a movie in the comic. And the stars of the movie are in the audience, watching the movie at the premiere, okay? Then something happens where they all think it's a stunt that the studio is putting on so that, you know, it looks like the movie theater is being attacked, when in fact, it really gets attacked, okay? And this is a review I kind of have to give a lot away because the whole premise of the book is sort of in that first issue. These heroes are actors, and they're sort of analogs to the Avengers actors, but also kind of just general types as well. At the end of the issue, they're no longer in our world. They're actually in the world that looks a lot like the movie, and they're going to be expected to take the roles of the heroes they played on screen to protect the world. My review seems a little all over the place because it's really taken me a bit to figure out if I really like this book. The action scenes are amazing. The art is incredible. You know, Paul Neary, Lauren Martin. It's like all the, you know, the old gang minus Mark Millar back together. I want to give this book a chance because this is definitely, you know, Bryan Hitch at the top of his game. A couple of his last books, pretty good. This is him firing on like the ultimate cylinders. So it looks very promising. I like the twist, you know, of these like actors who don't really know anything, and some of them are very unlikable, who are going to be expected to save the world playing the characters they played on film. So, you know, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. And, you know, I'll at least give it another issue to go, and it looks promising.
All right, that's it for another episode of Variant Edition.
It's kind of cool to do the review episodes, but we also like doing the news. So next week, we'll have the news return, and hopefully another segment from our New York Comic Con adventure in the fall.
Oh, yeah. A lot of stuff left from that we still have to show you guys, which is still important.
Yeah, and it's some good stuff, so we're taking our time to edit it because it's something that, I mean, we keep saying it. It's something that you don't see a lot of in the United States, so we want to make sure that we put a good face on it.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys like us on Facebook, share, tweet, watch us on YouTube, iTunes. Make sure you spread the word. Variant Edition is back, and we're here to take names and kick ass.
And with that said, if you do share, let us know, and we will try to get something back to you. We've already had a few people contact us about how they can help us, and we'd like to see more of that. You know, eventually we'll have a groundswell, and It's like, who doesn't know about Variant Edition?
I know, right?
But we're not there yet.
We'll get there soon, though.
And we'd also like to thank Little Shop of Comics in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, or as Lewis likes to say,
Scotchwood. Scotchwood, New Jersey.
we definitely would have got started again without their help. And very soon you will see why we enjoy that store so much.
Yep. And you're going to have to want to shop there, too. That'll be part of one of the reasons you watch the show. You have to shop there.
And it's worth it, definitely.
Yep.
The website's still, in progress. We keep saying this, but it's eventually going to look a little more like a proper website. And when it does, it'll definitely be worth it. But we've been focusing a little more on the show.
Yep.
So, but when it comes through, it'll be good. And we have a cool idea that we will put up there pretty soon.
Yep.
And it'll be worth the wait.
Definitely. So we'll see you guys next time, hopefully in a few short weeks. Enjoy the episode. We'll see you soon.
Take care. All right. Cool. That went
Awesome.
well.
Awesome.
So now